The 10th of June 1996. Russia, Moscow. The hands on the large dial above the electronic scoreboard pointed to noon. Sergei furrowed his brows and opened the silver lid of his pocket watch-like artifact, attached to an unremovable chain. It displayed 11:59 and 15 seconds. A single glance was sufficient for him to calculate the remaining time, just over 824 hours. After years of separation, his homeland welcomed him with beautiful weather, warm and sunny, perhaps even a touch too hot for early summer. Contrary to the claims in Britain, where they had suggested that the Mughal Union, which had collapsed less than 5 years ago, had left the wizarding world nearly deserted, Sergei observed upon landing that this was far from true. Foreigners had woven a tapestry of exaggerated tales about Russia, as was their usual habit. At Sheremetyevo Airport, unseen by the ordinary people, 2 magicians stood sentry in an outfit reminiscent of his childhood police uniform, polished black boots, blue trousers, white soldier's blouse, red epaulets, and caps with white crowns, red tops, and black visors. Instead of the Soviet or Russian coat of arms on their badges, they displayed St. George the Victorious. Evidently, unlike the British auras, the Russians embraced a uniform, or perhaps they simply harbored nostalgia for the good old days. Either way, it was hard to say. His trained eye immediately detected the boundary of the Mughal repelling charms. One of the magical law enforcement officers caught his gaze and motioned for him to approach. Sergei felt a tremor. His previous encounters with the police had not ended well. Nevertheless, he walked over, hoping not to squander his lone opportunity to make things right.
"How do you do?"
inquired the younger officer, studying a piece of paper.
"What is the purpose of your visit?"
"I speak Russian, officer." Sergei halted his effort, noticing that his speech had acquired an accent and was shedding certain words. Nonetheless, living in Britain for nearly 2 decades without the ability to converse in his native language was no laughing matter.
"Please introduce yourself and state the purpose of your visit to Russia."
"I am Sirius Black III, a pureblood wizard. I've come from Great Britain for family matters. I've learned that I have relatives in Moscow. I've come to meet them."
"The wand will need to be sealed. Foreigners are permitted only basic magic, such as averting eyes. Any other form of magic requires special authorization from the Foreign Office. At a cost."
"And if one were to pay immediately?" Sergei quirked a crooked smile, no stranger to corruption within magical Russia. "How much?"
"Do you have any standard currency? Pounds, dollars? Your British gold is of no use, it can't be exchanged here."
"I arrived on a Mughal plane," Sergei replied, recalling the exchange rates for the current year. "However, I only have £200 remaining." "I thought currency exchange was possible here," he fibbed.
"To hell with it, give me your £200 and be on your way. Not many people arrive by plane anyway, and you appear to possess a special artifact."
The senior wizard extended his hand and, having pocketed nearly 1.5 million rubles, turned away. His interest in Sergei entirely diminished.
"The exit is that way."
The junior staff member indicated, and Sergei hastened his departure, relieved that his escape had been so effortless. $300, naturally, was no small sum, once constituting his monthly salary at best. However, taxes varied for foreigners, and for the time being, he had no intention of disclosing his identity or, even more so, offering explanations to anyone. Sergei headed towards the train, but he chuckled at his own folly. Once he had set foot in Russia, he had forgotten his status as a wizard. Recalling the courtyard, a place that had increasingly dominated his thoughts, he disapparated. Upon seeing the familiar sight of the house, a playground adorned with greenery, a slightly worn iron door with a coded lock, and a crude inscription on the white brick wall to the left, my heart first froze, then thudded in my temples. My legs grew weak, and I had the urge to sit down and gather myself. Granny Nina and Granny Valia, the steadfast guardians of our yard, sat near the entrance. As Sergei approached, he took a seat at the opposite end of the bench, a bench he had crafted with his own hands long ago.
"Hello, who are you visiting?"
"Hello, I've come to visit the Zvezdnevs from apartment 45.
"Well,
They're not home. They're at work, and the kids are at school. Why are you talking so strangely? Are you a foreigner? German?
No, I'm not German, Sergei shook his head. Even if destiny had thrust him into the body of a German magician, he would never admit it to his grandmother, who had lived through the Great Patriotic War. I'm Russian. I've recently been living in England, where the language is slightly different, hence the accent.
All right, if you say you're not German. Why do you want to see the Zvezdnevs?
I'm a relative of theirs. I wanted to meet them and get to know them. Remaining silent and standoffish would be too narrow-minded. Besides, Natasha wouldn't be home from work until 5 o'clock. Initially, he had planned to enter the apartment and wait there for his family, but he needed time to collect his thoughts and emotionally prepare himself for the encounter.
Sergei, he's at work.
Sergei heard Grandma Valia's voice, breaking through the barrier of memories he had held back for so long, fearing an emotional breakdown.
He's at the cinema. Yes, he works as a stuntman at Moe's film. He does all sorts of stunts, motorcycles, cars, scenes with explosions. Also fights. He mentioned they're filming Ermak there now, a series about the Siberian conquest.
They're already editing it, Sergei whispered softly.
What was that?
Oh, nothing. It had been Sergei's dream to become a stuntman and act in films. Back when he was in the orphanage, he had watched a program about this perilous yet captivating profession, and he had fallen in love with it with all the fiery ardor of a young boy. The path to his dream led through military service, the acting department at VGIK, the All-Union State Institute of Cinematography, specialized courses for stunt performers, and his first job in the film industry, which he secured during his third year of studies. In 1982, at the Gorky Film Studio, he took part in the production of Invincible, a movie that delved into the origins of Russian Sambo. His inclusion in the cast was due to his involvement in wrestling, and his distinctive eye shape allowed him to pass for an Asian, a Tatar, or a Yakut. Colleagues would jest that by narrowing his eyes, Sergei could easily double as the world-renowned Bruce Lee. Thus, because of his role in that initial film, he earned the moniker Unkashable. The story began with director Yuri Alexandrovich Boretsky assigning Sergei a minor role, requiring him to utter just 3 words: unstoppable, invincible, unshakable. Yet, in 3 separate takes, Sergei uttered, unstoppable, invincible, uncashable. In the end, his lines didn't make it into the film, but the nickname stuck. Interestingly, the animagus form of the wizard Sirius Black was that of a robust black dog of an indistinct breed, akin to a blend of a Great Dane and a German Shepherd. Throughout the entirety of his new life, 2 decades long, Sergei remained uncashable. He strove diligently to not forget the reason and purpose behind the magical contract he had agreed to. That contract was set to expire on June 18, 1996, the day of his eventual demise. The 18th of June 1996. England, London, Ministry of Magic, the Arch of Death. Sirius was flying either downward or upward, pondering how his life had been much like this fall into the unknown. He had stumbled, though the when and where remained unclear. It certainly wasn't at the moment when he dodged the spell of his cousin, who had finally gone mad in Azkaban. Bellatrix is the 3rd brightest star in Orion, he recalled his father's proud words, his father having held a fondness for his eldest niece. Her father's name was Orion, and it suddenly struck Sirius that Bellatrix might not only be his cousin but also his half-sister. They bore a strong resemblance, even among the already similar Black family members. Narcissa resembled his mother, Aunt Druella, who was born a Rosier. Unlikely, though, Sirius remembered from the family tapestry. Artifacts don't lie. Perhaps Uncle Cygnus and Aunt Druella had encountered difficulties that his father had assisted in resolving. Orion Black was a renowned expert in ritual magic. Various thoughts and memories surged, infused with a persistent longing. Now, none of the Blacks remained. Bellatrix became a Lestrange, but such a lifestyle wasn't likely to prolong her life. Andromeda had become Tonks, married a Muggleborn, and was disowned by the family. Narcissa had adopted the Malfoy name. The three sisters, once close in childhood, were now separated by fate, even finding themselves on opposing sides of the war. Bellatrix, in particular, was at the forefront of the battle lines. For some reason, Sirius felt their kinship keenly now. Would Bellatrix regret what had befallen him? His older cousins had looked after him and his brother, sharing various magical tricks. They were all remarkably talented wizards. How long ago that felt. Almost unbearably distant. As he continued his descent through the Vale of Death, Sirius recalled a childhood that seemed almost forgotten. Perhaps that was the cliched experience of life flashing before your eyes. Still, there was much to reflect upon. His life had seemingly amounted to little. 36.5 years, 12 of which were spent in Azkaban, and nearly 3 more years in hiding, akin to a rat. He had let down his friends and family, failed to suspect Peter, couldn't save James and Lily, turned his back on Remus, and was unable to protect his younger brother Regulus, who had vanished. He had clashed with his parents, not attending their funerals. Most grievously, he had let Harry down. Starting with the moment he left a 1.5-year-old child in a crumbling house, consumed by a desire for revenge against Peter Pettigrew, to the moment of his own demise before his godson's eyes. Sirius vividly remembered locking eyes with his best friend's son, Harry, just before he passed through the Vale of Death. The 15-year-old's eyes were filled with terror and fear. Harry would be alone again, unsupported. At the mercy of those muggles. Suddenly, his descent halted, and Sirius found himself suspended in a quivering, trembling darkness, a kind of waterless water, fogless fog. The darkness seemed tangible yet slippery, a sensation unlike any other. He lacked a firm surface to stand on, but he clung tightly to his wand, never letting go of the precious artifact he had managed to acquire from Ollivander's shop. In his youth, Sirius had taken a keen interest in artifacting and knew the secret to selecting the right wand. In the Black family home, he had located the appropriate book and bypassed the enchantments through a back door, customizing the wand solely for himself. To all other wizards, it was just a piece of oak wood. Lumos Maxima, Sirius chanted, attempting to illuminate his surroundings. He sent a radiant sphere of light straight ahead. The magic was mostly absorbed by the living darkness enveloping him, and he struggled to discern any details. He could either be in a place devoid of objects, trapped in darkness, or the light may simply not be reaching anything. At least for the moment, Sirius held on to his magic. Rotating clockwise, he released more light spheres, but the indifferent darkness persisted. The term dormant crossed his mind, describing the environment. As he neared completion of his circular exploration, he unleashed another light sphere and caught sight of something resembling an eggshell hue amidst the dormant gloom. Determinedly, he moved toward it, seeking to unveil its identity. Progressing through the living darkness proved difficult but achievable. He imagined it was akin to water and swam, struggling mightily, arms flailing, attempting to maintain his course. Sirius wasn't certain whether it had been a couple of hours or a few days. He had lost track of time, feeling neither tired nor hungry. However, the darkness surrounding him grew increasingly tangible and visceral. Eventually, he reached his destination, halting in front of a small flat stone, roughly the size of an oval serving dish. It resembled an egg with a bitten edge, suspended in the darkness with its pointed end facing downward. 8 thin and short notches framed the stone, all pointing towards the center. Running his finger along the center line, Sirius flinched as the once icy-cold stone rapidly warmed, causing the notches to unexpectedly open. A greenish light like Avada Kedavra shone forth. The darkness surrounding him began to seep into this peculiar artifact, which no longer resembled a stone. Instead, it transformed into a mask of a creature with 8 eyes, resembling a green blossom that faintly resembled an Irish 4-leaf clover, except with each leaf split in half and slightly off-center.
It's been a while since I've seen people.
Sirius whispered internally, his mouth agape as he observed the darkness swirling around the mask and assuming the likeness of his mother. Black curls in a high hairdo, gloved hands, a fan in her grip, and her favored black dress with a 70s-style jabot. Everything was present except a face. Instead, the Wahlburger Black before him wore a white mask with green, pupilless eyes. Sirius found it nearly impossible to divert his gaze from the intricate embroidery on the familiar hem. He also realized that his surroundings had transformed. He stood at the heart of a well-lit chamber resembling a library, filled with countless books. The black marble floor beneath him bore white veins arranged in an intricate pattern. Upon closer inspection, he saw these veins radiated from his location, resembling an expanding web. Yet, with the creature's 8 eyes fixated on him, the associations weren't the most comforting or reassuring.
You've behaved poorly, Sirius. You've led a rather misspent life.
I know, if I were given another chance, I'd make amends. But... Sirius hesitated. Who are you, and why do you appear like that? Are you deaf?
I'm a guardian, so, let's see.
With a graceful gesture of her hand, the guardian produced a sizable folio with a short inscription on the binding in an unknown language that resembled runic script. The pages of the book swiftly turned. The guardian's 4 eyes on each side squinted slightly, as though she had time to peruse its contents.
Indeed, you could correct this. I've identified the pivotal moment that altered your life's trajectory and set you on the path you've walked. However, there's one problem.
Was it when I left Harry? Sirius interjected. The verdict of the strange creature, which appeared to have reviewed his entire life before him, clenched his heart painfully. I would have stayed out of Azkaban and raised Harry. I would have been the best godfather.
No, earlier. But your soul is damaged, rendering you incapable of a second chance. Given your story, I cannot allow you beyond the fringe.
The black dress's darkness undulated, shifting, and flowing. Sirius tensed. It remained wholly unclear what this creature, or perhaps some deity, he had roused within the Arch of Death sought from him. Moreover, why was it discussing soul damage? Perhaps it referred to that time when the Dementors had nearly completed their kiss.
I shall have to consume you in this state,
the Guardian said matter-of-factly. She appeared part demon and part Dementor, larger, with a menacing maw beneath her mask, and horns adorning her head. Her tattered, darkness-infused black cloak did little to conceal her exposed black torso.
Then, I shall slowly and sorrowfully digest your impaired soul.
Stricken by the transformation, Sirius, driven by instinctual fear, shifted unconsciously into his animagus form of a dog and tried to escape from the creature that sought to devour him. The library sprawled extensively, filled with both dead ends and interconnected passages. It probably resembled a labyrinth when seen from above. However, Sirius's animagus form was a dog, not a bird, so he lacked the perspective to view the configuration of the bookcases from above. Instead, he relied on instinct as he darted through the maze-like aisles. Suddenly, a familiar scent wafted into his nose, causing Sirius to pause in slight surprise. The scent bore traces of blood and Harry. He dashed forward and halted before a bookshelf shrouded in a smoky haze. In that very moment, a large paw clasped him by the scruff of his neck. He got caught.
Good dog. Your soul might be damaged, but your magic's intact.
Sirius was shaken, feeling his human form return as he slid down to the smooth, hard floor. The Guardian's appearance shifted once more, this time adopting the likeness of his younger brother. The sibling turned away and casually ran his fingers along the book spines, his hair and student robes bearing a familiar cut.
If only you had fixed it, I'd still be alive. Our fates are etched into this spectral reality, forever unrealized. Ma'am. Dad. Me.
You were always the clever one in the family. Why don't you find a solution? Sirius retorted, momentarily forgetting himself.
Perhaps there's a solution indeed. Your magic endures, suggesting you need to locate an interested soul who's willing to work for your second chance and establish a contract with them.
An interested soul? Sirius's mouth hung open in disbelief.
I have a few candidates.
The Guardian's form shifted again, now resembling Hogwarts librarian, Irma Pintz. She resided in Hogsmeade, and while Sirius wandered in his dog form, she occasionally treated him to sausages.
You'll need to select one from among them and strike a deal. Remember, you only have one chance. If your chosen candidate declines,
I'll spend eternity in your stomach, Sirius finished glumly.
Exactly. Here's the material for your research. I've translated it into your language for your convenience. Examine your candidates and make your choice.
With those instructions, Sirius received a stack of books and was led to a broad oak table that materialized out of thin air. How much time do I have? Sirius inquired, arranging a dozen folios.
Until you've made your choice. Study well. Remember, you'll need to negotiate everything with your candidate on your own.
Sirius's thoughts echoed in his head as he skeptically estimated that each book of life contained at least 600 pages.